Okay.
I'll
Okay.
try to get to some meetings in person when I can, but Telford's a little ways from Abingdon.
Yes, it
It
is.
certainly is. Hey, how you doing today, Connie?
Hey, I'm all right. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So, we're going to be recording this and sharing this with the other members online and so forth. So, yeah, thanks for doing the Zoom call. Um, Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us what the title of your first book was.
Okay. Well, my name's Connie Claiborne, and like I said, I live down in Telford, Tennessee, back in the country where the cows roam and the squirrels run. So my very first book is entitled, it's a children's book. So I'm not sure if you want that one or if you want one of the other ones, because
Yeah, let's start with the children's book. That's unique.
okay, sure. So it was just originally called Willie the Silly Haired Snowman, and I published it with Mountain Girl Press, Tammy Robinson Smith, the first time. Then I, along with Victoria, republished it as Willie the Silly Haired Snowman's Great Adventure. And so it's just, it actually probably could have been two books. I've learned a lot about children's books since then. It was just a storybook. I don't even know how you would classify it, honestly. It's not a picture book, it's just basically a storybook. And just about a snowman and a little girl and their relationship and how the snowman helps save the day in the little town that they live in. And just a fun little story.
Well, where did you get the idea for that book at? Was this something from your childhood that you kind of a memory you grabbed onto?
Kind of, yeah. There was a story when I was a kid growing up, and it was called The Littlest Snowman, and it was a story about snowmen. And right now, I don't recall exactly what the story was, but that from the time I was little, that snowman story just stuck with me. And I just kind of went from there and, got the idea and just kind of developed it. And then I got somebody to work with me on the front end to develop it into a story that was publishable.
So tell us, just a few sentences what your most recent book is about.
So my most recent book is Wisdom from the Double Wide, which I started a blog several years ago called Wisdom from the Double Wide, and then I took the blogs and turned them into devotions. So Wisdom from the Double Wide is, I guess it's inspirational, but it's also a collection of devotionals that are funny stories, and I just attached them with a scripture that goes along with it, and then just finished out the story into a devotion.
Is that the preferred genre you like to write in, a spiritual?
That's what I've done more of. I did a book before that. I co-authored it with a couple of friends called Aging Fabulously, and it is also a devotional. So that's what I've done more of lately.
Okay, so just a quick question off the cuff, but is there a certain scripture that you kind of sort of live by or hang close to your heart that sort of inspires you to write?
Um, Gosh, there's so many. You say you have a favorite scripture, and I'm like, well, they're all good. I like the Jeremiah 29, for I know the plans I have for you. And also, especially this day and time with, the way things are in the world, the Second Timothy 1:7, for God has not given me a spirit of fear. And I find myself referring back to that a lot.
Well, you know what? That's very interesting you say that. And I'll just kind of bring this up as a side that can kind of maybe go along with your books. But when you bring that up, the most repeated phrase in the Bible is "Fear not and be not afraid." So I don't think it was a polite suggestion. So the fact that you have that in your theme in your books is kind of an impressive thing. So what's next on your writing agenda?
Well, of course, I have an online magazine that I'm it was a dream of mine to have a magazine, and it's called Outlaw Y'all Celebrating Southern Appalachia. So I'm trying to do that quarterly. It comes out quarterly-ish right now. It's not always every 3 months, and sometimes I have to skip a season just because I get busy. I'm actually wanting to get into writing some ebooks. I've not done that before. So, as you know, you have to learn as you go. So I'm learning, you have to write the book and then learn how to do all that and trying to fund everything. I'm sure everybody understands about that because you don't always have a big budget. certainly
Well,
not a budget for somebody else to do it for you, except I will say Victoria is great to work with on things like that.
so that's a good plug for you, Vicky, at Hoot Books Publishing.
Yes.
So I guess I'm going to ask you this, and I'll just wrap up with this question. But I wanted to, all of our writers that talk today, I kind of wanted to kind of pose this question to them because it's sort of makes you think. But throughout your writing journey, from the time you got started or even thought about getting started, because to be a writer, you don't have to be writing at the time. You're always thinking about something. I thought I was maybe a writer 2 or 3 years before I actually started writing in my head. But during the course of that journey, what have you learned most about yourself from your writing experience?
Um, well, for one thing, I'm learning to have more confidence in myself. I started out as a newspaper writer, so maybe I made a preface with that as a reporter, journalism in college, and then went on to work for newspapers. And I never really thought a lot about books, although I admired people who wrote books. And just went to a writers conference over in North Carolina in Black Mountain at the Ridgecrest Conference Center. It's Black
Mhm.
Mountain. I mean, I'm sorry, Blue Ridge Mountain Christian Writers Conference. There's another plug, but if anybody's interested, that's a really good one. Went to that and just, started really entertaining the idea of writing books, but I just looked at what everybody else was doing and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just not a good enough writer. I mean, that's the way I looked at myself
Mhm.
is I enjoy it, but I have gained more confidence in my writing. Like, why would somebody want to read something I've written? So I guess that's why, or that maybe that's why I originally got into devotions, because I wanted to be able to offer encouragement to people, offer something that somebody that would stay with them. And that's not saying that fiction doesn't, because fiction certainly does that. I just happen to get into devotions and I want to write fiction at some point. But I think really developing my confidence in myself is a big thing I've seen.
Yeah, and one thing, something that I've read a while, well, many times over and over the years. But when people ask, what you write, or what you do in general in life, but especially when it comes to writing, I always thought the why part was the most important because most
Yeah.
of the time, this is true in a lot of things, business, writing, whatever you do. People don't care so much what you do, but it's why you do it because there's that
Yeah.
story, and then that's what kind of bridges a gap between people, makes them interested in your books. So
Mhm.
that's a good way to answer that. So I appreciate you sharing all that with us. When's your next book coming out? Any ideas when?
I really don't have a deadline yet. Of course, I want to do it sooner rather than later. But with the ebook and this one I'm working on right now, I'm actually just going to offer it as a free book because, again, it's something I want everybody to be able to get a hold of. And so, hoping this summer I can get everything finished up. And by this summer, maybe June, I'm looking at, if not before, I've got to give myself some kind of deadline.
Do you have a website or a social media where people can follow you at?
My website is it's Wisdom from the Double Wide, but the URL is doublewidewisdom.com.
Okay. So yeah, make sure you look up Connie there. Find your books, I imagine, are on Amazon as well. Can people find those books there?
The books are on Amazon, and then I'm trying to think about face. I'm on Facebook, but I'm on Facebook under my name, Instagram under Wisdom from the Double Wide. So I know that mixes it up a little bit. And I have an author page on Facebook as well. It's Connie Claiborne. I think it's writer slash author. Um, I'm on just about everything. I'm on X under my own name, Connie Claiborne. And I'm on TikTok, although I haven't done a lot with TikTok.
Well, hopefully you people look up there, find you, and pick up your book online. Also, if you're watching from home or wherever you're watching from, if you buy one of the books from one of the authors, make sure you go back to Amazon, leave a ranking and a comment. You have no idea how much that helps writers get recognized and get traction to selling more books. So thanks again. Thank you, Connie. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
So who's next? We don't have anybody else on Zoom. I do. Okay. How would I stop the? Okay. All right. I'm going to set you down, Connie, and we'll leave this thing running. But I'm going to have
All right.
some others coming up. I guess I could just do this from here,
Yeah.
and everybody can stay where you're at if you want to. Um,
No, they'll probably need to come up to the chair.
okay, yeah. So Connie can hear too. Okay.
Well, yeah, I
Um,
can hear. I mean, I would love to see everybody, but I know that may not be possible. But if I can hear, that's good too.
well, if I know everybody was going to see me, I might have shaved before I showed up today. Um, Susan, it's come on down. The price is right.
My nerves are so rattled, I had to look up the name of my short story. That's right, bam. I get rattled easy. Doesn't take much.
Okay, so if you want to hold so everybody can kind of see you,
Oh, okay.
and then so we'll make this as awkward on you as possible, Susan.
Please do.
So first thing I want to ask is tell us a little bit about what kind of genres you prefer to read in, and how does that impact what you like to write?
I like to read pretty much all genres. I like to sci-fi, mystery, romance, pretty much nonfiction, biographies. I like to read about everything, but I like to write romance novels. That's what I'm working on right now, and I like to write in my short stories that I've done. One is a romance, and then one is Appalachia area, a story about Appalachia.
So who's been, I guess, one of your influences that kind of shaped the way you, or influenced you to want to write in that genre, maybe not necessarily shape the way you write?
Probably Nora Roberts. Um, she has a variety of books. She actually has a mystery series, and for the life of me, I can't think. She writes under a different pen name for her mystery books, and I can't think of what that is, but um,
Can't remember it either.
I can't. Yeah. Yeah, I really like the way that she writes and how she weaves her stories and creates her characters. And so that's kind of been an influence
So what is your favorite character that you've written?
that I've written. The one that I'm working on now, um, actually is the male character in my romance novel. Um, his name is Royce, and he's based uh, loosely off of being like the grandson of William Marshall. He's one of my favorite people in history. So that's how I came up with his character.
So do you like to incorporate like the history, like historic romance? Like, is there a period, a time period you prefer to write in?
I like medieval history. Um, I don't know why, I just am drawn to that. I like the way they speak, and I wouldn't want to live in that time period, because it's pretty rough on women. But when you can romanticize and kind of build on that sort of storyline, I like to read those stories and write those stories.
That's fascinating. You like that period because it's seems like a lot of sci-fi fantasy writers like that area.
Yeah.
Like Jason Houghton back there. So um, what about that particular period? Is is it the chivalry? Is it the or kind of the brutality of that era that sort of gets your attention?
Kind of all of it. It's I like the superstition. I like that part of it. I also like the religious aspects, because they were much more religious, I think, then than we are now. You know, whether they were Celts or whether they were had gone into their like pre-Catholicism, or they're they seem to have more, um, and maybe it's the romanticizing of it, but like their moral compass was a little better than ours. And I find that very interesting.
Well, let's stick with old Royce. Where tell us a little bit about Royce and what you like most about him as a leading character.
Royce is right now in the first part of my story, he is actually sort of hiding who he really is because he has to. Um, and he's kind of the quiet hero of the story. He's not rambunctious. You know, he's not boisterous, but he knows how to get things done. He's very chivalrous and honorable, which is a trait that I have read about with William Marshall. So I kind of wanted to use everything that I had learned about William Marshall and create my own character and use him for
Somebody with a strong moral compass.
right.
So back to the question I'd asked before to Connie. During the course of your writing, your journey, what have you learned most about yourself?
I have a lot of fears.
Okay.
I have really learned. I didn't realize I was so fearsome or and naive about certain things, you know. But yeah, that's what I've learned and need to overcome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's how are you planning? Is it something you're actively trying to do to overcome? I imagine a lot of writers that find out when they get into this, they have a lot of fears. Like I did too.
Yeah. Well, to try to stick with it, you know, I feel like I've learned that I have a fear of failure, but also a fear of success. You know, it's like, and it's a stumbling block. It's a huge stumbling block.
It's it's interesting you admit that because a lot of people don't admit that. We all know about that fear of failure, but people are just as afraid of being successful
Yeah,
as they are of failing sometimes, and that keeps us from sort of chasing that dream, and pushing
yeah,
that
yeah,
envelope as writers
it does.
to be something different or more than what we think we can be.
Then you have to speak to people,
Uh
and that's not my biggest. That is not a strong suit of mine.
oh. But doing more interviews and touching base with like radio and podcasting and to get your work out there is important. I mean, we're way past the era where publishers push us. They're not pushing us. We have to
Yeah.
pick up the ball and run. And that's hard. That's really hard. But I appreciate it. Thank you, Susan. So is there a website or social media people can find you at?
I have a Facebook page, and I think it's under Susan Renee. And I'm not really big. I'm not great with social media because when somebody irritates me, I sort of let them know, and I know you shouldn't do that, and I get in trouble, and I have to delete things. So I try to stay off of there.
All right. We're learning more about you every day.
I know
Great.
I'm quiet, but I got a temper.
That's
But and then on the Virginia Writers Club, I do have a thing on theirs where I've linked the two short stories um, from the Jan Carroll Publishing.
okay.
The the second one is Steamy Creek. That's the name of the book. And then is it Daffodil Dreams? Because you have one in there too,
Yeah,
Linda.
Daffodil Dreams.
Yeah.
That's
And those are on Amazon also, right?
And they're on Amazon
Okay.
too. And you can at Jan Carroll Publishing. I think that's the name of her.
yeah, Jan Carroll.
You can find it from her website too.
All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So we're gonna go next to Oral Fraser. He's not here. All right. Well, how about J. Michael O'Connor? No one's okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and just jump next to Tracy Prater. All right. Be afraid. Be very afraid. We got some folks who just didn't really want to talk about, but also if you're watching this, keep in mind you might want to keep checking the Guild YouTube page because I am going to be reaching out to other writers in the Guild and maybe doing some of these short interviews on a podcast, and I'll for the Appalachian Shine, and then we'll save the video and let the Guild use them, and that way the writers can use those clips to get their work out and share on YouTube and Facebook or wherever else they want to. All right, Terry, I'm going to hand the phone to you. Show us your book cover. All but the blood. All right, tell us a little bit about the book. What's it about?
Okay, so it sounds gruesome, but really all that means is that in the book you'll find that there are three women who come to find out that they have um, maybe a mystical relationship, a past life relationship. That they're connected in every way but the blood so far in this first book. So the first book basically tells the story of a historical researcher. Her name is Meg, and she's exploring the links between her hometown and the enslaved people who were brought there. Her work takes her from Southwest Virginia to the Slave Trail of Tears into Natchez and down into New Orleans.
So where'd you get the idea for this?
Well, it started out as one idea and faded into another. I spend a lot of time in New Orleans. It's basically my second home. And when I was thinking about retiring, I knew that after I retired, I wanted to work to write. And I was going to do maybe like a cozy mystery kind of mystical thing where maybe the ghost of Lafitte would help this young person, young lady solve mysteries, you know. And so I started, and I'm a very big, I literally read a lot of nonfiction. So I actually came up on a book written by two women in North Carolina who are trying to prove that Lafitte is actually buried in North Carolina, that he actually disappeared, came back, went into Mississippi, married a woman in Mississippi, and then moved into North
Wow,
Carolina.
okay.
So
Alternative history.
it is. And so I went to Lincolnton and to visit the gravesite of this pirate and his wife, and was standing there over the graves. And I had a friend with me, and she just kind of looked at me. She said, "Do you feel that?" And I went, "I do." And basically, the feeling came that I needed to write her story, not his story. And she is actually, I was an enslaved woman that he married.
Oh, wow, okay.
So something came to me that I needed to do that. And then I live in Saltville, which is the salt capital of the Confederacy. And there is not a lot of history about the enslaved people who, there were over 2,000 at one time who were kept there.
Oh.
So this is, we're kind of the birthing of the story.
Okay, well, that's another interesting discussion in and of itself. To be continued on that front.
Okay.
So where did you, so I guess as far as the leading character would be her in the book, do you use her real name or is
No, the leading character is actually Meg. Well, she's semi the lead. Then this book, I go from current day into history. So I'll have some chapters about what Meg's doing to do the uncovering, and then the other chapters go back and tell the story of the family that.
so what really what are Meg's strong traits that make her the leading character?
That she has learned, even in her youngish life, a lot of lessons that Appalachian women are not to be smited, that they are not to be put down, and that they can do whatever they want to do. And that includes research. Because in the book, you find as Meg was left the area for a while and went into the DC area to work for a college, and was basically told that,
Okay.
you know, they could help her with her accent. They could help her. And so
Yeah, she didn't need help.
she didn't help. So she basically said that and came
Well, that's-
home. Came home to do her own thing.
Okay. So strong, wise beyond her years.
Wise beyond her years. Has a few little mystical qualities about herself. She's inherited her Appalachian granny witch.
So where did you
Force.
get the idea for her? Is she maybe loosely based on someone you know or grew up with?
She's probably based on a couple of my friends.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, does that lead to the kind of the fascination with like New Orleans and the history and the sort of that pseudo macabre down there? Because you initially started talking about.
Well, I know I've been going to New Orleans since 2 weeks before Katrina. So that came first,
Well, that
actually.
dodged that bullet.
That came first.
Yeah, but that is a kind of a mystical, magical place,
It is.
and I don't know if you visit New Orleans. New Orleans never really leaves you,
It does not.
and that's kind of weird.
It
But
does
I've never
not.
been to a place that had that impact either. But New Orleans is one.
It is.
Yeah. So what are you working on now? What's next?
I'm working on book 2, which is Water Over Blood, and this is the second woman in the story of these 3 women who meet. And her name is Wavery, and she's actually from Western North Carolina. And so we find out how Wavery got into New Orleans and what her ties back in history might be to the whole thing.
So when will that book be out?
Well, I hope to have the first draft completed by the end of April, so we'll have
Okay.
to see after that.
Okay. So we got a little time to wait.
We got a little time.
So people can pick up this book.
Right.
Kind of
And then in the first book, Meg's kind of researching one of the family members that was sold down the Slave Trail of Tears. His name was Sam, and he is a brother to Louisa, who you also meet in All But the Blood. But Wavery has a real tie to Louisa, we find out.
Okay,
His
that's a
sister.
cool name, Wavery. I've never heard that name, so that sticks out. So that's really important, I guess, to have a good character, like a name that people will remember.
She was named after her grandfathers, William and Avery, and they smashed it together to get Wavery.
That's better than what my mom called me and my sister when we get in trouble and she would be flustered. So I guess I'll toss this question to you too. What have you learned most about yourself during your whole writing journey?
That things really don't ever change with human beings. They're either really good or they're really bad.
Sounds like a tough lesson to learn.
It is a tough lesson to learn.
And that gets shown in your.
It does get shown.
Okay.
It carries through the blood.
So where can people find your work? And
Amazon.
Social media.
I don't do social media well, so that's something I need to improve on. But my book's on Amazon.
Okay. All right. And yeah, make sure you go check that out too. And again, leave rankings and comments.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So who are we going to pick on next? Vicky, we should draw names out of a hat here. So we've only got a couple left. And Jason's all right, Linda, and then Vicky, you guys are next. We'll get Linda Hoagland, and then we'll do Vicky, and then I guess we'll be done. So well, but then I guess I'll say so. Well, they've had enough of me probably already in this video. I could interview myself. I got 2 chairs. I can jump.
One chair to the other.
What do you think, Connie? I can go from one chair to the next, interview myself. All right, I'm gonna hand this over to. I'm gonna actually let's first get the book cover up here.
Yep, that's my new one.
Snooping can be unmerry.
Yep.
There you go. How many snooping books have you written?
That's number 9.
Well, the kids so they see your face.
Oh, darn. I don't want them to see my face. That Snooping Can Be Unmerry is my 9th Snooping book. I'm working on number 10 and I don't have a title yet, except that I think I do. Snooping Can Be a Trial.
Okay.
And it's going to be a good one.
So who's the main character in Snooping?
Now it's Lindsay Harris is a mother of 3 children, a set of twin teenage daughters, and an 11-year-old son. So she and her kids are always in trouble. She is a legal assistant to a lawyer in a small town. So she knows everybody's business. She shouldn't know it, but she does. And if something doesn't seem right to her, she and the kids go snooping and try to find out the truth.
Okay, now Lindsay Harris. I like that name, Lindsay. I have a niece named Lindsay. Where'd you get the idea for her? Was she based on you a little bit?
Basically, she is, because they asked me at Mountain Gold Press, Jane Carroll, to pick a character to write a series for. And because I am so familiar with being a legal secretary at that time, I chose that character. And yeah, I've done it.
How many snooping books are you planning?
I'm doing number 10. I don't really know. I'm 76. How much longer do you think I can do it?
You got at least 20 more years. Come on.
I'm trying.
Oh, you're gonna be around a long time. Mountaintop and other poems.
That was my collection of poetry, my most recent. And Vicki published that one for me, and I'm very proud of that one. Poetry does not sell well in this area. You sort of have to force it onto people, but occasionally they'll buy it.
Who inspired you to write poetry?
I always have had, and then, well, someone told me I couldn't. Okay, that's all it took. You can't write poetry. You want to bet? Huh? So I did. I've got some good ones in there, and they've all been published somewhere.
Could you do me a favor? Could you read this one? I finally got it right.
Uh, the name of this one is I Finally Got It Right. Marriage, divorce, struggle to survive, with two small sons hanging on for life. I plunged into an unhappy life, followed by divorce. Number 3 was good, and I finally got it right. 25 years later, I was a widow. No more climbs up that mountain because the trip down is too painful. Been there, done that. And that is true.
Yeah, I've read this one before. When I was kind of thumbing through here, I wanted to stop right there on it because um, you have written some really interesting things when you've done, I guess those contests we do with the Golden Nib.
Yep. You never
And
knew what I wrote.
yeah, they all get submitted. Yeah, yeah, and the read for them. And when you submit things and you don't know who wrote them, there's a couple there. One, and this is just something between you and I, but I think tells a lot about the passion and some of the things you write, especially in poetry. I read a short story, and it was nonfiction, and I read that, and it was about a time in your life and then relationship. And I don't get into the details of it, but it was one of those things that I remember talking to you that day. I was torn about that. I was sad. I was angry. I was angry at who did something. And from the writer, I was kind of angry at you for like handling it. It's all of it. You pulled every emotion out. I thought that is that's powerful. That when you can do something like that, that is very powerful. And I think some of that it really comes out in your poetry. What I've read of your poetry and some of your short stories, and I just want to say, that is rare air when you write something like that and can pull that out of all those emotions out. And what was it, 4 pages or something? It
Yeah.
wasn't even a very long piece.
Mm.
So I think it's important. So if anybody's looking for books from you, those compilations are really, really good too. Not any addition to the other 500 books or something.
Now I've only written 38. Now be nice.
Well, will you tell the audience there how old you were when you first started writing?
I was, my first book that was published, I didn't get it published till I was 58, and I had started writing my very first book when I was 16. I didn't show it to anybody till I was 66.
Okay, so if people
got
think
it.
they haven't got that bestseller by the time they're 30 or 40, hey, listen, some people are just getting started.
Yeah, oh yeah, I tell
and
people
happy.
it's never too late.
Now,
Never.
this is very interesting. I love the cover of this one. Bad for Business.
Bad for Business is a collection of short stories, good ones. Half of them are true and half of them aren't. And I enjoy doing short stories. And again, Vicky published that one for me. And she did it in bigger print.
Okay.
And I have had more luck selling that to people my age because we can't see very good anymore.
So where'd you get the title for that?
The first short story in there.
Okay.
It's about a homeless man who buys a candy bar and he sits down in front of the store to eat the candy bar. The manager comes out, chases him away. He's bad for business.
Oh.
And it's a very good story.
So what the last question again that everybody gets is over the years you've been writing, what have you learned about yourself?
I can write and do anything I set my heart to do. There are a lot of things I wish I hadn't done in my past, but I can write about them now and be happy. And it doesn't bother me a bit.
Well, that's a cool kind of confidence. So where can people find you on social media and on online?
They can find me on Facebook, and in my letters there are lindasbooksandangels.com.
Okay.
And I do sell angel Afghans. That's how the angels get in there. Sometimes they work for me, sometimes they don't.
But they do. So you're doing book signings all over the place.
Yeah, I do.
People
Yeah.
can just look for you online, and
Yeah.
you're going to be somewhere.
They look me up, and I'm somewhere every weekend, every Friday and Saturday. I'm somewhere.
Well, I'm usually sleeping, but God bless you for getting out. And we've got one more to go, Vicky.
Vicky, come
Thanks
on
for
up here.
sharing, Linda.
No problem.
All right, we've got one more to go here. We got Vicky, and Vicky is the owner of Hoop Books Publishing. And what do you got there? Lovely locks
of gold.
All right.
This is my new book isn't in yet, so this is the cover
All
of the
right.
new book.
All right. So it looks good. I like it.
It's book 2 in the fairy tale series that I'm doing.
So who's Princess Topaz?
She is the lead character. They're all jewels. The first book was Princess Emerald. And then I have Princess Topaz. There'll be a Princess Pearl and a Princess Ruby, a Princess Sapphire, on and on. And it's a take on fairy tales, like Princess Topaz is a take on Rapunzel with a little twist.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're not going to have like a Prince Fool's Gold or anything, are you?
No,
So soft as yours.
no.
So when did you first start writing? What was your first book?
Well, I started writing when I was 12 and I wrote poetry. And so when I retired from teaching, I thought, oh, I'm going to be able to get my poetry published. But the Lord had a different idea.
Yeah.
He sent me the Bible Tells Me So stories for children. And so that was my very first book. And, it's a set of 2 because it has the Old Testament stories and then the New Testament stories. And I did get to do my poetry book after it. Then came another idea that I was given about 3 siblings that spent the summer with their grandparents. And they found a very special watch in the barn. The barn plays a big part in the story. It's called Blessings and Bible Times. And Blessings are actually the last name of the siblings.
Now, did you ever did you teach Bible school?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
43 years.
Okay, so I was, that's why you tend to lean toward children's books.
Right.
Now is there a certain like theme or verse that you kind of fall back on often that kind of
My life
inspires you to write?
My life verse was Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And I truly believe that because he has done many things through me that I couldn't have done myself.
So when is this one coming out?
Hopefully in just a couple of weeks. I just had to do a little bit of tweaking to get the page count, to where I kept saying, but this is the story. This is the story. You have to add some pages. So, so I'm adding those pages, and then it will be ready. But yeah, the cover's ready, and the main part of the story is all set to go.
So at Hoot Books, you publish a lot of different things, a lot of different genres.
Yes.
So you have to read these, edit these. Or,
Oh,
you have a
yes.
lot of reading. But other than what you do through there, what kind of reading did you like to do for fun over the years?
Oh,
Kind of molded to
mysteries are my very favorite.
any particular author or series?
Well, growing up, I was a huge Agatha Christie fan.
Okay.
And now that I've met some local authors, I love Linda's snooping series. She knows that because I ask her constantly, when's the next one going to come? When's the next one coming? And I also like thrillers, like Stephen James. We've had him to speak before, and I like his books and some books that I've just finished doing, even though he wouldn't come and tell about them. It's J. Michael O'Connor's series of thrillers, and they're good.
Forward to reading those.
They are excellent books. I just finished his last one, and it's called Jordan. It was one of the main characters in one of the other Well, we can't say trilogy because it ended up being 5 books, didn't it? So this is like book 6. So double trilogy. I don't know.
Cinco de Book, right?
But excellent books.
So all of your books are on Amazon and
Yes.
Hoot Books Publishing. People can find you there.
Right.
What else do you do on social media? And tell us a little about the AAG website.
Okay, Facebook, of course. I have a personal page, but my books page, Victoria Fletcher's books, I advertise books coming up. My HBP, I advertise books that I've just finished for other people. The AAG website, is to keep everyone updated on, what the guild's doing and when our meetings are, and to keep that going. And then it's also on Facebook. We actually have more followers on the Facebook AAG page because there's some of the former members that are not members today in the guild, but were former members and they've still stayed part of the group.
Mhm. Well, that's good. That's good. I'm glad we have so many members that are still keeping up, and
Yes.
people always go to AppalachianAuthors.com and see when our next meetings are.
Right.
And yeah, encourage as many people as they can to jump on by Zoom or come in person if they can.
Yes, we love it.
Also, we have those second Thursday of each month. We have the Zoom meetings in the evening. Jason Houghton and I will do, and we have
Right.
the usual. How many students do we have on there? Anywhere from 4 to, yeah. Sometimes we've had as many as 8 and 9 at one point. But I guess they got wind of me and didn't come back. I don't know what happened, but we have some really good workshops and presentations on there. And it's not really just workshops. We have some really good roundtable discussions about things in the writing process, and like how do you get over writer's block, or we're going to be talking about some of the major theme, or what was the yeah, some of the major elements of storytelling. That'll be this Thursday night at 8 o'clock on our Zoom call. So, yeah, we just encourage as many people to get involved, and it's all about helping each other become better at our craft and become more creative. And any kind of humps that we have as far as kind of breaking through, help us kind of kick those walls down and experience that more freedom, like Linda was talking about, and not being afraid to write. And it's like that old adage a lot of classic writers would talk about. It's not necessarily the everyday stories, but the crazy things that you did, you wouldn't want anybody to know. Those make the best stories, the things you want to keep in the closet. So don't be afraid to like share. And I think that's one thing I've always struggled with.
Mischief
Yeah.
and Mayhem. That
Yeah.
was actually my nickname when I was growing up.
Oh.
Mom said I could cause more mischief and mayhem than 100 kids. And it has some of those little things that I did.
Mischief and Mayhem was her
Mhm.
nickname. That was better than mine. I was called Tweet. Anyway, but anyway, I appreciate everybody answering some questions and kind of telling us what you've learned about yourself along the way. And it is a journey. Every book is a journey. There's no, there's always a starting point, but there's never an end to the road we're on. And that is a kind of as a cool kind of vacation that most people don't get. But so thanks again. I appreciate everybody doing that. So I'm gonna hand this back over to Vicky. Close this out.
Thanks for being here, Connie. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you. It was fun.
Yes, I just wish that we'd have had all of our people here that were supposed to have gotten to be here today. Had several, things to come up for people and they couldn't be here. So
Yeah. Well, they'll be here next time.
yes, we hope so. All right, I'm getting ready to end the recording and close the meeting.
All right.
Excuse
See
me.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Oh dear.
That was fun.
How do I stop the recording?